Hey everybody, what is going on? ArmenHammer here. That right there is Justin LoFranco with the Morning Chalk Up. And on this episode of On the Minute, we are almost exactly 2 weeks away from the Open. And, well, I don't know, Justin, I feel like we're both equally excited about this in different ways. We should, you know what, let's just get right into it. Let's talk about it. We're 2 weeks away from the Open. This year is going to be a big departure from what we've seen in years past for a multitude of reasons. You know, the Open is going to be a direct pathway of qualification for the CrossFit Games. There isn't going to be the regionals in the way anymore. The programming is still done by Dave Castro, but as you on the Morning Chalk Up was able to sort of write an article about, that programming is going to be influenced by Greg Glassman. There's a whole lot of things going on here.
None other than Greg Glassman himself.
What is the Open season shaping up to look like right now from your perspective, Justin?
Well, I think that the Open still is the, premier fitness community event of the year, and we're going to look at the numbers of registrations as the competition gets closer to kickoff. But regardless, it's still a community event that's going to rally lots of people. You and I were just talking about this before the show. Are you going to do it this year? And I'm like, of course I'm going to do it. I do it every year. And every year we see some of the same criticisms. No, I'm not going to give them $20 just to do that and just to register. And why even bother? I'm not going to make it to now the games or previously the regionals. I think that the motivation, though, for many people still remains the same. And, it's a great test of fitness year over year. There's most likely going to be a repeat workout as they have always done in the past. And it's an opportunity to see how well you're doing and put yourself through a 5-week test. All those things, they are the exact same thing as they were a year before. I know that enthusiasm has waned a little bit because of the changes that have been introduced. But at the end of the day, the test is going to be what we would assume to be another great test of fitness over 5 weeks. And, I'm going to be doing it. I think you're going to be doing it. But, that kicks off in 2 weeks. So I'm really excited. This is one of my favorite times of the year.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I tell myself every year, I've been doing the Open since 2011, and I've told myself every single year that, hey, you know what? This is probably the year that I'm going to do the workouts, but I'm not gonna sign up. And every single year I sign up for the Open. So I'm certainly going to be participating in the Open this year. And I think it speaks to sort of what reasons people have for doing the Open, that it really shouldn't necessarily affect the vast majority of people doing the Open.
Yeah, 99.9% of CrossFitters in years past, including this year, they had nothing else to expect from the Open except testing themselves.
Absolutely.
And comparing them, if they wanted to, against other athletes in their gym, in their local community or area, or their state, or in their country. That's what it's been, and that's none of that's changed.
It definitely hasn't changed. And I think the question of why should I sign up for the Open is no different than it was in 2011 when the workouts were first announced and the Open was first created. It's a participatory community event. You and I, and I'm speaking not just to you, Justin, but also the you watching this right now, we're not going to make the CrossFit Games. It just isn't going to happen.
I don't think
so. For the handful of people who are Games athletes who are watching this, what up? Yeah. Either way, the fact of the matter is we're doing this because it's a fun thing to do with our gym, within the community, and it's just an opportunity for us to have something year over year to either look forward to and compare yourselves to. Obviously, there's plenty of unhealthy ways of approaching the Open, but let's go ahead and push that aside. That's a whole different world.
It's true. We don't really know a lot about this year's Open, and there's going to be a lot of, I think, new things that are being introduced here. And one of the big questions that I don't know about you, but I get asked all the time, we get emails in and Facebook messages is, okay, what's going to happen with live announcements, and how is that going to be treated this year? We got the earliest indication there weren't going to be live announcements back in the summer and in the early fall. Greg was talking about the new direction of CrossFit's media wing, and it appears though through Instagram that they have said they are going to be some kind of a live announcement, and that's what Greg had shared with me a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about some of these new changes to their site. But all indications seem to point that it's not going to be what fans have come to expect in the past, which is a really sort of polished live production, a live broadcast with, you know, top tier athletes head to head, and having this big live experience that's going to draw you know, a large crowd, etc. All indications seem to point that that is not the plan. Greg has indicated that to me, and to be frank, they don't actually have the staff, you know, in place any longer to pull off something that's
and that's probably the best proof that you need. That they actually do not have the staff in order to pull off something like what we've seen in the past with the Open
tamper down your expectations. It's you know, to a much more appropriate level. I think that is this big shiny example up here, and I don't think that they're going to be doing anything like that. Also, another clear indication, Armin, I think you'd agree with this, is that Greg's focus has been on a different class of athlete right now, and that putting the pros back up on the pedestal again for a big live production is kind of unlikely and would be a little bit uncharacteristic of what CrossFit's been doing recently.
So what you're telling me is that my dream scenario might actually come true.
Yeah,
and that dream scenario
Armin
is
versus Justin, live Open announcement.
It's you, it's me, and it's the old man with his antifreeze drugs.
Yes.
Drugs? Jugs.
Jugs.
Antifreeze jugs.
That's bad.
In grandma's house, and we're just throwing down, doing like bench dips off the side of the chair and V-ups on the sofa.
Yeah, that's
I'm
probably
100% in. If that's what the live Open announcements are going to look like, I'm 100% in. I'm waiting for your phone call, Greg.
Right.
Either way, I think speaking of the movements that we can expect to see this year, you know, another slight change that might be coming is
strict.
The strict. If you've been paying attention to CrossFit.com, there have been a lot of different types of workouts showing up. Lots of strict gymnastics, lots of static holds, lots of combinations of heavy deadlifts and handstand practice, lots of rowing and Cindy, specifically strict Cindy. And so with that as sort of our guide, and it used to be that was our guide. There was a time where if you weren't paying attention to what's going on CrossFit.com programming, you're completely out of the loop on what to expect at both the Open and regionals. So this year, coming into the Open with CrossFit.com having this huge overhaul, I think it's really important to focus on the fact that we might be seeing some very interesting variations of movements and workouts that we haven't seen in the Open before.
Yeah, 100%. No, CrossFit, the CrossFit Open has thrown the community through many loops in the past, okay? You know, the introduction of dumbbell work would blew everybody's mind, and, you know, they seemingly somehow forgot that, you know, that the foundation, the first CrossFit.com workout had dumbbells in it, and, you know, handstands blew people's mind. Like, they would never do this, and then they did it and stuff. I think there's going to be another interesting shift here, and the strict is the word that I'm going to use. I think everybody's pointing to strict pull-ups, but I wouldn't be so convinced it's going to be strict pull-ups. Again, a lot of what the Open does is about the efficacy of judging this over a really large population of people in many different countries. And so I wouldn't put it at the strict pull-up, but the strict handstand push-up, a strict press, maybe a strict muscle-up, but I don't want to put any clear predictions on there, but I would say I believe that something will be done strict this year. And I think that athletes who've ignored that component of their training over the last, 11 months, they're going to be exposed to that. Can do something kipping, but can't do it strict. I don't know what it's going to be, but I'm pretty confident that something's going to be translated there to the strict movement.
So with the sort of mysteries and the enigma of the Open season sort of really coming into full gear here. You know, this time last year, we would have been talking about what does Dave Castro's most recent post mean? What is his hint? What is he trying to tell us? It's a picture of a gerbil eating a frozen carrot on a Saharan desert landscape. What could it possibly mean? Without any of that sort of build up, it does kind of lose some of the energy behind it.
Yeah, the palace intrigue, right? The palace intrigue, like what's going on, and to building up the interest in an environment of that. I wouldn't expect Dave to be posting a whole lot of hints in the past. You know, I mean, he hasn't actually talked about the CrossFit Games changes since they've happened, and it's been, you know, since middle of August. So I wouldn't expect that there's going to be a whole lot of content that's driven around that. But you know, that's just me taking a lay of the land from the last 9 months and just saying, well, we haven't seen a whole lot of stuff that indicates otherwise.
Absolutely. So it's between the last time that we recorded and this time, we have had not one but 2 sanctioned events happen, which means we have a whole slew of newly invited CrossFit Games athletes and teams. But with Australian CrossFit Championship, there was no live feed. You were out of pocket climbing a mountain somewhere, and it was not the easiest event to follow, although they did a relatively decent job of keeping people up to date.
Yeah, accolades to their team for a lot of media content that they were trying to put out there. You know, no live stream, so it's a bit hard to follow. But the leader sport, you know, at the end of the day, speaks for itself. Sam Briggs is a monster,
and I was able to follow it basically using their Facebook and Instagram and the athletes there. So I think there was definitely something there. But you mentioned Sam Briggs.
Leaderboard speaks for itself, man. The machine,
Yeah.
Sam Briggs, the machine. She was cleaning it up, wrecking face. I mean, I think she won like something like 8 events, or I don't know what the total was, but it was a dominant performance.
It absolutely was. And in first place on the men's side, James Newbury, earning his invite to the CrossFit Games, which he likely would have been a contender for the national champion through the Australian Open, but obviously that's still up in the air with the weirdness of the 2019 season and the events taking place before the Open. That type of thing isn't going to be a question in the upcoming seasons. But again, also not to neglect to mention it, on Sam Briggs' side, she's already gotten her invite from Dubai. So yeah. Maddie Sturt, congratulations. You're
Maddie
going
Sturt.
To Madison.
Looks like you're going to Madison. And she's also a strong contender with Cara Saunders not competing this year. She's a strong contender for a first place position in Australia too. So TBD on if that affects the ultimate shakeup on the leaderboard. But right now, Maddie Sturt's walking into she's earned her ticket to go compete in Madison.
And on the team side, we had a super team, Project X, which was Con Porter and Brandon Swan and Jessica Coughlin and Harriet Roberts. It's just a group of athletes where you probably recognize at least one of those names. And it's coached by Bobby D of Raw Strength and Conditioning, who used to coach Brent Fikowski and James Newbury. So obviously he's got some talent in, you know, putting some athletes together. So that's the Australian CrossFit Championships. Let's talk Fittest in Cape Town, which had just happened this past weekend. And let's go ahead and I'm going to say right now for our viewers, I apologize. We're not going to have full report cards for either the ACC or the Fittest in Cape Town, but you know, whatever, you'll survive. Let's go ahead and talk about literally anything but the team competition, but because I feel like neither of us know any of the teams. But I guess congratulations to Vondel Gym for qualifying for the CrossFit Games, getting an invite to the CrossFit Games. Let's take a look now at the women's competition. Katrin Davidsdottir, obviously the clear favorite going into the event, and really lived up to that. And she was able to put herself in a position where she wasn't absolutely dominant throughout the entire weekend, but certainly left no doubt once it was over.
But it was I don't want to say a very tight race, but it was a considerably tight race. She was getting a ton of challenges from the second and third place and fourth place positions that were sort of changing throughout the week. But really very impressive performance from Mia Akerlund, who's well known for a barbell. She has the heaviest recorded snatch, I think, of 242 pounds in a CrossFit competition ever as an individual.
Snatch? 242? I don't think that's right.
238? It's in Dubai. It's in Dubai. We'll get the right number. Well, I don't know. I don't remember what it is, but it's the heaviest recorded snatch.
I remember it being really heavy. I don't remember it being
fair enough.
Male
I'm going to look it up while
heavy.
you're talking after I'm done talking, and then I'll tell you what the number is. Okay, so just hold on a second. She's known for her barbell work. Extremely proficient with a barbell. She has a very high caliber lifts, and one of the strongest women in the field. There were only 3 barbell events, which is really impressive. She won the final event, which is equally impressive, which did have a barbell in it. But I was very impressed with her. You know, we saw her in Dubai. She did very well in Dubai. Not as well as she wanted to. She was in the lower part. She was in the lower part of 10 at the end. But second place against Katrin Davidsdottir, Alison Pacelli, Courtney Haley. she really showed up. And Katrin's also a great candidate for either national champion or a top 20 in the Open, which she has done before. Mia Akerlund could be punching her first ticket to the CrossFit Games as an individual athlete. So that's really cool to see. She's been working hard for a lot of years. I'm excited about watching her over the next several months.
For sure. And I think the tie there between Mia Akerlund and Alessandra Pacelli to decide the second and third place finishes is really impressive. Pacelli is an athlete who essentially at this point has her spot at the CrossFit Games kind of locked in because she's competing using her Italian passport. So I can't think of another Italian female that's going to be able to push her. So that kind of gives her, you know, a cushion in a way, but she's been doing the tour. I think this is definitely not her first sanctioned event of the season.
Second sanctioned event of the season so far.
And it's unlikely to be her last sanctioned event of the season. So it's really impressive to see her be able to put in event after event after event, competition after competition, and finish up third, not really that far off from that first place spot behind Katrin.
Oh, wait, it's 228 pounds.
228.
228 pound
really
snatch
impressive.
Mia Akerlund put up at Dubai. It is the heaviest recorded individual snatch from a female at an official CrossFit event.
Wow.
228
Way to go,
pounds.
Mia Akerlund.
Congratulations.
That's really impressive. And Mia, by the way, is no slouch, so she may be able to push for a national champion of her own. All of this is quite confusing. There's a million different ways this can go.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and take a look at the men's competition for a second, because going into this weekend, if I had to guess, you and I probably would have said Cole Sager is the favorite to win it. And there's good reason for that. I mean, he's placed in the top 10 at the games multiple times. He was 7th at the games in 2018. He's probably the most clutch competitor at the CrossFit Games ever. When it comes to being able to show up at regionals and have to win events to make it, the man knows when to compete. And yet still, second place behind Sean Sweeney. The CrossFit Cowboy made his stand, and it was very impressive because he did so having to actually do well on the final day of competition. He came into the final day in second place by just a handful of points and was able to win out enough of these events which I would not have had him winning, by the way. We're talking like a half Murph. We're talking a couple other things that just with the heavier barbell and a guy with his injuries, never would have guessed him beating Cole Sager at. And he did exactly that. He was able to qualify without winning a single event, Justin.
I didn't actually realize that. I think what's really interesting here is that he got a 22nd place finish at Wodapalooza not that long ago, like a week and a half ago. And
10 days ago.
10 days ago, and then turns around and he gets a first place position. You know, he's going up against Cole Sager, Street Horner, Tim Paulson, James Newbury, Lucas Parker, who's returning to the competition, Jason Smith, who's a local athlete. That is just really mind-boggling, and I think it speaks to an important point about this new season format. It's that putting all your eggs in one basket might be a bad idea. And I love Cole Sager. I really do. I respect him as an athlete, and I love watching him compete. He's a really inspiring athlete. But right now, he's only slated to compete in one event, and it just happened, and he lost. And in the Open, he's never been top 20 worldwide. Never in his career. So now he's going to have to figure out, Mid-Atlantic's qualifier is already completed. I think he's getting an invitation to Rogue, but that's not going to be an easy road. So then he's got Granite Games, French Throwdown, Lowlands Throwdown, Down Under CrossFit Championship is going to be using the Open to qualify athletes. So he has options on the table, but he currently is not. There's no direct route for him to qualify except through winning a competition. And that kind of is very, very interesting here. And it points out this new dynamic in this season that eggs in one basket can sometimes, not work out so well in your favor.
And I think there's this assumption with Sean Sweeney that he just probably wasn't going to make it back to the games because of his games placings.
Yeah, I think there was, absolutely. I didn't write him off completely, but I certainly was giving him, I wasn't giving him strong consideration. I thought, this is the kind of athlete that you're like, unless if it really works out for him, he's probably seeing the end of his road here because he has to go out and win events, and that is not easy to do. as you can see, Cole Sager didn't win an event.
And I would say this, Sean Sweeney winning Fittest in Cape Town, to me, is probably the coolest thing of this new season for one very specific reason. And that's because we have never, ever seen something like this happen before. Previously, both James Newberry, Cole Sager, they have beaten Sean Sweeney at the games each time that Sweeney has been there, and by a considerable margin. Sean Sweeney has never placed above them on the regional leaderboard. And yet you put 3 people from 3 different regions together in one competition, and you essentially are rolling the dice for who's going to be the best that weekend. And that is the type of excitement that didn't exist when it was mandated top down to how all the regionals were going to go. And that's exactly what I love about all these changes with the sanctioned events, the freedom that the events have themselves to create the workouts, the test, the environment that they're looking for. That's the thing that makes this, you know, the real meat of what's going to make this successful is exactly in that.
Yeah, and I'll leave it with this. You know, I think you know, hats off a little bit to Fittest in Cape Town for putting on a really solid event. From what we were able to observe and what we heard from people on the ground, the events were creative, they were interesting. I think, you know, again, 3 barbell events in a CrossFit competition is fairly uncommon, but at the same time, they incorporated a lot of great elements, modalities, and workouts. And I think that, you know, they deserve a lot of respect for putting on something that was very fun for the athletes and the fans. You know, also shout out and kudos to them is they provided a live stream, which they've never done in the past, and they've never previously done it. And, you know, we pointed this out over the course of these last several weeks talking about sanctioned events. There are a lot of new challenges to the season. There's a lot of new challenges to expanding and to attracting a larger international audience and creating a sustainable model for these sanctioned events to continue. So I think hats up to them for doing a good job. It sounds, from everything that we've heard, I think that it went off really smoothly, and it was a really well executed and ran event. From everything I could see, you know, the things were happening on time, which is great, especially when you're watching in the middle of the night. We certainly appreciate that. But kudos to them for running another event. You know, it's only 2 weeks away to the Open, 2 weeks until the next sanctioned event in London, which is happening simultaneously. This is going to be a really exciting season.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a really exciting season. I'm ArmenHammer. That right there, that's Justin LoFranco. This has been an episode of On the Minute, and we'll see you in, you know, next week to talk more about the Open. Now that the Open is finally upon us and this season is getting kicked off in a real way.
Here we are.
See you later, everybody.
Bye.